everyone, and welcome. My name is Jill Marsteller, and I'm an assistant professor in the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health with a joint appointment in the Anesthesia and Critical Care Medicine Department of the School of Medicine. This module in the On the Cusp Stop BSI project series is about the Team CheckUp tool. This is a monthly instrument that helps us understand the implementation context and activities of the teams, and ultimately this may differentiate varying levels of your eventual success. So our learning objectives for today are to understand this tool, and the tool is used to describe the anticipated activities of your ICU quality improvement team, also to track your implementation progress and elements of the context of that progress, assess barriers that you're facing, and monitor the interactions on your team. In addition, today you will think about how the tool can be useful to you and how you can use it internally to improve and monitor your own performance. Again, this tool or form is about the quality improvement team and its activities. And the quality improvement team that I'm talking about is the core team that's working on the CUSP and CLABSI project. This is the small group that spreads the intervention to the rest of the ICU. So the people who are doing the work to educate and engage the rest of the ICU in reducing BSI. To review the importance of the quality improvement team, we talked about this in a previous module on building your team. I just want to reinforce that this quality improvement team has the greatest impact on how the intervention is rolled out at your site. And in the Building the Team series, I suggested that you have absolute power over how implementation is done at your site. So it's very important for the quality improvement team to be not only chosen wisely, but also to pay attention to its own activities and how it's doing, its own performance. And in addition, your senior leaders and your entire organization will be interested in knowing some of these details. The potential implications of the quality improvement team doing a poor job are slower implementation, gaps or uneven implementation, or higher continued risk for infection, for dollars lost, and in lives lost if the quality improvement team isn't doing a good job. So one of the ways that we keep up with what's going on your quality improvement team is using the Team CheckUp tool. And the Team CheckUp tool is designed to measure, for example, the engagement and educational activities that the quality improvement team is enacting on the unit, the participation in CUSP activities, the extent of the implementation on the unit, how far has this intervention gone, how many people are using it on your unit over time, barriers to progress, again, that you're facing, and interactions on your team and whether there are any problems among team members. At a very high level, you can think of this as kind of a cue card for yourself, not just as a data collection tool for researchers or as a way for the senior leaders to know what you're up to. This is also a cue card, as I said, or a cheat sheet for you, because every month you will revisit the set of activities that we think are essential for your progress. And you'll say, hey, how am I doing on this particular thing? And you'll know over time whether there are any holes or gaps. So at a high level, the things that you'll be you'll be doing to just keep on track are having team meetings. And with the team meetings, we recommend at least 2 meetings a month of your quality improvement team. And when you're first getting started, you may want to have weekly meetings. I think it's a good idea, actually, to try to have weekly meetings, not just for listening to the immersion calls that teach you how to do this, but also to start your planning. There's going to be a lot of work in that early time period, and so weekly meetings, I think, would be a good idea. In addition, you're going to be reviewing your data on a very regular basis. You want to know, have we had any infections in the past month? You want to review that data monthly. You want to be meeting with an executive partner on your unit. This is the person who is assigned to your quality improvement team, and you want to be meeting with that person monthly or more often. And in fact, they're supposed to be coming to the unit and checking things out on the unit, talking with people on the unit about how they feel. And so you want that executive partner to be a face that's recognized on the unit and someone who is approachable, where the people who work in your unit feel that they can bring up issues with this executive partner. So you want that to happen monthly or more frequently. And then also the executive needs to be reviewing your data. They need to be fully informed on how you're doing in this project. And in the meantime, you want to be setting up presentations to hospital leadership, the board of directors. If you're part of a system, you want to try to have some presentations at the system level. There are all sorts of quality committees that you can present this information to, and so on. And it's important for you to be getting out there and keeping everyone abreast of what you're trying to do and what you're achieving. It's reinforcing for your own team. It's reinforcing for the unit to be well viewed as trying to improve the quality there. And in addition, these leaders need to be abreast of what you're achieving, attempting and achieving. So when you're in these team meetings that I told you to have weekly or twice a month, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what exactly are we doing in these meetings? Well, you're coming up with ways to engage and educate members of your unit about this intervention. So among the things that you'll be talking about and actually doing on the unit are modeling the line placement steps. What's the best way to teach everybody how to place a line according to the evidence-based practices? Stopping insertions that violate protocol. You need to role model that behavior. If you're not going to do it and you're part of the quality improvement team, then I don't know why, or you wouldn't expect anyone else to be willing to do it. And so you need to role model that behavior. And you should talk with your quality improvement team about ways to make that easier for people. How can we support people when they do decide that they need to stop a line insertion? Having one-on-one talks where necessary. So that's another thing that your quality improvement team takes on, is taking people aside. If there are issues and someone is consistently bucking the protocol, then there may need to be a sort of personal chat involved, and that will oftentimes help quite a bit. In addition, you're going to be talking about the CUSP activities that you want to undertake. We don't expect that you do all of these things at once. We suggest that you are undertaking a new CUSP activity about once a month. It's going to start with viewing the Science of Safety video. We recommend that everybody on the unit sees this video. It provides you with the philosophy behind safety in general and how it's not really an individual level effort, it's actually a system level effort. And so you need to set up your system in order to support people in doing the right things. You'll work on the how will we harm the next patient exercise. And this is essentially not trying to claim that no matter what you're going to harm somebody, but rather to say if someone were to be harmed in the near future, what's a likely way that it might happen? And everybody, I think, on your unit will have some ideas about this. And so it's a useful exercise to sit down and have everybody brainstorm about what are the little things that are slipping through the cracks. What have you noticed that conceivably could harm a patient? Let's attack it proactively. Let's not wait until it actually happens before we address it. You'll also be rolling out the daily goals sheet, the morning briefing, the learning from a defect exercise, and of course you'll be engaging an executive to be a partner with your unit in improving your safety generally. So these are all parts of the comprehensive unit-based safety program, and your quality improvement team will be figuring out how best to roll these out on the unit and how to, at what pace you would like to roll them out as well. Some of the activities that you want to be doing in order to educate people about BSI, in order to engage people on the unit in this intervention, include, for example, you could set up an internal seminar for the staff. You'd certainly want to have in-services and demonstrations so that they can learn how to do the line insertion properly. You might want to take that a whole extra step and have role-playing where someone who is not as high in the hierarchy needs to stop a line insertion because not all the steps have been followed. Let's suppose that perhaps a doctor comes in the room, has full barrier except for the hat, and so a nurse perhaps has to suggest to the doctor, "I'm sorry, doctor, did you forget your hat?" And if you go through some role-playing with this, it makes it much easier for people to actually do something that can be very difficult for them, especially in a hierarchical relationship. It's difficult sometimes to question the people from whom you normally take orders. And so if you do some role plays with that, that can help people become a little more comfortable. You should present this project at all the committee meetings, at staff meetings, wherever you can present it. Make BSI prevention part of a skills fair, for example. What are the steps? How do we do it? When you're doing your skills fairs, go ahead and make this one of the things that you cover. Have someone from the infection control department visit and give a talk about perhaps how infections are measured or how they're counted. If you need to, you might need to alter your written policy on how line insertions are done. So take a look at that policy and see whether there are any alterations that are required. Definitely post the evidence-based steps and progress updates. People on your unit need to know how they're doing. In fact, you want everyone to be very cognizant of the fact that you're in an intervention and last month we had an infection, but this month we don't have any infections. Or how long has it been since we had an infection? So that people can really feel part of the progress. They can see it, they can feel it, they can see it, posted right there on the wall. Put the prevention practices on all the clipboards if you use the clipboards. Update and prepare a line cart or a kit with the checklist of all of the practices that are required for safely inserting the line. You can also hand out, say, a fast facts one-page information sheet. Make sure that everybody on the unit has had a chance to look over what you're doing in a way that's easily digestible, and then back that up with more in-depth material, perhaps at seminars or so on. I want to tell you a quick story about posting the progress updates and posting the steps. One of the people that I worked with had set up a poster in a bathroom, and she put it there because she said everybody comes in there and stops and spends a little while, and so she felt that that was a great place to communicate information about the project. And at the end of the project, she told us that she'd actually heard that people were coming from other floors to use that bathroom just so they could see what was going on with the project and learn a new piece of information. She fed it out to them slowly with small, digestible, and brief descriptions of what had gone on in the content calls, what information had been relayed. And so people really found that helpful, and apparently was something of an attraction. Another thing that we're going to look at on the Team CheckUp tool are the barriers to progress that you might be facing. So one of them is turnover on your quality improvement team. You start out with a core group of very dedicated individuals, and somebody decides to leave because of something perhaps unrelated to the project, and suddenly there's a huge amount of upheaval on your team because that person was in charge of X, Y, and Z, and now those things aren't getting done. So turnover can be a barrier. It can be disruptive. Don't think that it's purely disruptive, though, because as long as you replace that person, you're bringing in some new ideas, some new blood, and you should look at that as an opportunity to learn from yet another perspective. Spread to the other parts of the hospital. Now, this is not exactly a barrier to progress. In fact, it can help you because when you have to train someone else on how you did it, it actually becomes much stronger in your own understanding. You have a much stronger understanding of how you did it because you have to communicate that to someone else. But this can also slow your progress sometimes if you're being asked to spread it in many places. It does divert your work a little bit. Other things are disruptive events over which you have no control. These can be things like a JCO accreditation or implementing a new EMR in your unit. These are things that take your time away from this work, and so we want you to have a chance to say that that's happening to you. Sometimes there may be a lack of quality improvement skills on the team or a lack of time to roll out this project. There may be a lack of buy-in among the people on the unit. They don't quite believe that this is necessary. You may be facing a lack of support from your organization or a lack of sufficient autonomy to get things done. So all of these are measured on the Team CheckUp tool. And then finally, we also measure interactions among team members. If you remember from our Building a Team presentation, we talked about some of the important ways that teams operate together as an efficient unit. And among those things are that the team agrees on its goals, both its short-term and long-term goals, and that the team values individual contributions from everyone, in fact solicits individual contributions from everyone, and has good participation from everyone, that the team can resolve conflicts in a positive way, that you don't avoid conflict, of course, because it can be very useful, but that you do resolve those conflicts and come up with a convergent solution, and that the team is unified and feels like a team. So these things are also measured on the Team CheckUp tool, and they can be useful for you to know this because you and your senior executive. Because if you're having problems on your team, you need to resolve them as quickly as possible, and you may need someone with a management background to perhaps step in and offer you some suggestions for ways to make things smoother on the team. So your action items heading out from this session of the CUSP BSI project are, first of all, to look over the tool and get to know the data elements. And then I want you to think about which of those elements are most important to watch. Which of these things do we want to pay attention to on a month-to-month basis to see whether there's any problem? Then I want you to be sure that you share all of your TCT data with your executive partner, and that you make sure the executive partner is aware of the elements on this tool as well, because that person may have things that they wish to watch particularly closely. And then finally, make a strategic plan up front on how you're going to address any identified barriers to progress. Try to think ahead of time. If we find, for example, that there's going to be turnover on the team, what can we do in advance to minimize the problem with that turnover? Well, obviously one thing is to transfer duties off of that person. Perhaps another thing to do is bring a new person on the team while that other person is still there, so that they can do a little bit of knowledge transfer. Just do a little planning to make things a little smoother. In the final slide, I provide you with a few references that you can consult that talk about the Team CheckUp tool. I appreciate your time. I look forward to speaking with you again.